The NFL preseason is underway, and that means our time to draft season-long best ball rosters is dwindling. However, we still got about a month left before the NFL season. That is plenty of time to jam in more drafts before week one. We're going to do one right now today over on FanDuel.com and talk through our thoughts. It's a 12-team draft, drafting live on air. The tilt will be real. We're going to talk through each of our picks here. This is the FanDuel Live Q&A on the FanDuel YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and Twitter channels. My name is Jim Sonis. I am a senior writer and analyst for numberFire.com, here to guide you through today's draft and talk about our picks live on air. Joining me today to break down their drafts, we've got JJ Zachariason, Brandon Gadula, and Rob Lopez. We'll start here with JJ, the editor-in-chief of numberFire and FanDuel. JJ, your players to avoid list came out today. So how have the Twitter streets been so far?
As you would expect, not the greatest. No, actually, it hasn't been that bad. You know, usually with a players to avoid article, people aren't very happy because you're talking bad about players. And you know, people typically react more favorably to players to target than players to avoid. But so far, it hasn't been that bad. Did have Derrick Henry on that list. Not that I think that he's terrible, as you can see by these expert rankings. I think I have him at RB5, but he's being drafted at RB3 on average. So we'll see where he ends up going in this draft.
So what I heard there was you hate Derrick Henry. That exactly. Is the correct takeaway. Yes. Okay. So the Derrick Henry truthers, of which there are many, feel free to hit up JJ at Late Round QB to direct your vitriol towards him. Let's talk to Brandon Gadula, who has never been hurt by fading Derrick Henry in the past. Definitely not a thing that occurred at any point last year. Brandon, my co-host in the Heat Check Fantasy Podcast, our weekly DFS show. He is also the managing editor at numberFire. Brandon, hello. Happy Friday. How you doing today?
Yeah, I'm good. The Derrick Henry stuff is, I was going to mention that I've never been hurt by Derrick Henry. I did actually look earlier this week at his workload and just kind of how that stacks up historically. And, you know, there are a lot, like there's the curse of 370 touches or 400 touches or whatever. And I mean, there are reasons to be concerned, but honestly, for his age and for, you know, just the guaranteed volume, I think that there's not enough reason to be completely out on Derrick Henry like I typically would be. So I kind of learned a little bit and looking at Henry's workload.
Yeah, you and I both have him as the third overall player for this year. Does it make me nervous? Yes. Can I find any alternatives to put there instead? No. That's why we are where we are right now. Let's talk to Rob Lopez. And Rob, you are the video content manager at FanDuel, and you've been around for a while now, but I haven't had the pleasure of being on a stream with you yet, I don't think. So I felt jealous, which meant that I had to get you on here today so we can get you on for this best ball stream. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm also going to say I'm a big Derrick Henry fan, and I'm scared of him. He is rather large. So I'm Derrick Henry all the way.
You're the smartest person here, I've decided, based on the way you answered that, because yes, we should all be afraid of Derrick Henry, very large human who is very good at football. So we are drafting today. Obviously, there are more people in this draft, but all four of us are in this draft. We're going to break things down and get you set for the 2021 NFL season, talking through our tilt and more here on the air. And of course, we do have the chat going, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. We have live Q&As each and every day here on the FanDuel YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and Twitter pages. I do MLB DFS. That is every day at 4 p.m. We will still have MLB DFS later on today. That's going to follow this stream. So if you're here, if you're like Jackie Moon over on Twitch here to watch the baseball stream, we will still have that later on today. But first, we got a best ball draft to do. And the way you can do this, if you are watching along and want to get in on the best ball action, there is a QR code up on the top right-hand corner of the screen. If you scan that QR code, it will take you to the best ball lobby. You can play whatever size you want over on FanDuel. You can now enter your own personal rankings, which I did not do because I'm a big dummy, but you can do that now. Enter your own personal rankings in case you auto draft for whatever reason. The drafts do start once these leagues are full. So I try to be like the last person in. That's not a super sustainable strategy at all times, but hey, that is how I try to navigate around that. But in case you are, more paranoid than me, you can enter your own rankings and your pre-draft queue to get set there. So with that all said, let's just do this thing. JJ, you are the final one to enter. I'm going to invite you to do so right now. Let's get this puppy started.
Let's do it. I'm in.
Okay, here we go. I am picking second. Rob, you're first. Okay, so are you going to go Derrick Henry and gift me someone else, or what are you thinking here with the 101?
Oh man, it's tough being at the top, as they say, right?
Heavy is the crown.
Yeah, I know. I'm looking here, and it's a lot of running backs, I think, at the top, and I think I kind of have to go. I'm gonna go with Christian McCaffrey. I can't not go with Christian McCaffrey.
Okay, so this is hyper unfortunate for me because I have had the second pick often in these best ball drafts, and I've been hoping to get some Christian McCaffrey shares. It sounds, based on what Rob is saying, that won't happen this time. So, Rob, can I bribe you? Like, are you open to bribes to not take Christian McCaffrey?
No, you know what? I'm going to keep CMC. I believe he had last year wasn't the most, I guess you could say, the funnest year for a CMC fan. He's in and out of the lineup. I believe he's going to come back strong. I think he's going to have a good year. I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to stick with the number one pick.
Okay, so you went with McCaffrey, which means I have really no choice but to go Dalvin Cook. I feel like there is a pretty significant drop-off after that. So do you want to get that in? We got Ryan at drafting now. Ryan drafting third overall. Brandon picking fifth, and JJ is picking eighth for today. Brandon, how you feeling about that fifth pick? I'm sure that's your favorite spot to draft from, right?
I mean, I can at least get one of the running backs that I would be targeting. It's not ideal. I've got to figure out
Chris Conley. Little early.
Yeah, I mean, with Kamara and Kelsey gone, I feel like Derrick Henry is just the obvious pick at this point. So I'll go with the guy that we were talking about, and I'll go with Derrick Henry here.
Your tormentor has become your ally now, yes, as you take Derrick Henry, fifth overall. Crawdaddy on Twitch is saying that he'd rather have second or last. So he wants one of McCaffrey or Cook, I'm assuming, for Crawdaddy, or he'd rather get at the turn with the 12 and 13 overall picks. Sam, our projections czar at numberFire, went with Zeke Elliott. Bennett goes with Aaron Jones. Okay, JJ, you are up with the 8th overall pick. What are you considering here?
Well, I was going to go with Aaron Jones, I think, but I'm actually I like going with a more modified zero RB approach, and it gives me a little bit more flexibility as well. I'm actually going to go with Saquon Barkley here. Okay. And may look like a slight reach, but I'm fairly bullish on his injury outlook. If you listen to the doctors on Twitter, they seem to be feeling pretty good about Barkley's situation. The first couple weeks of the season are rough for the Giants, but I'm really just buying into volume there with Saquon.
Brandon, it looks like you have a fan over on YouTube. Woman's Coin. So this is a Peterman, a man's coin reference. The woman's coin says Conley with that 2 exclamation points. So Brandon, at least you're not alone in adoring Chris Conley. You have a friend here. Nick went with Tyreek Hill. We have Alicia, one of our editors, up at numberFire now. And Cal, if you are a regular on the MLB DFS Q&A stream, this is Producer Cal on the clock, which meant that I was supposed to be like super distracting and giving Cal a lot of tasks. Is there a comment I can, force Cal to bring up to distract him from his pick? My goal is to make Cal's team as bad as possible in order to make mine better. Unfortunately, Cal seems to be impervious to my wooing, and he went with Nick Chubb. Okay, so I tried to distract Cal, could not do so. He went with Nick Chubb at the 11th pick there, and we'll pick again. This is Abe. Picking at the turn here, and we'll go back around to JJ in just a bit. So, JJ, you mentioned you wanted Saquon Barkley there. Does that mean, given you alluded to there's no one on the stream who's picking before you, so I'm okay asking you about strategy. Are you thinking wide receiver with your second pick?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, one of these other guys that we're drafting with could be listening to the stream.
Why would you possibly watch this if you didn't have to? Like that's my question here.
I'm open to going a lot of routes here because, and I think that you should be. If you look at the wide receiver position, there's still a lot of studs left. You have Diggs, Hopkins, DK Metcalf, and Calvin Ridley, I'd say, are the go-tos or would be the go-tos with my next pick. But even at running back, I mean, I think that you can easily make the case for Najee Harris, Antonio Gibson, or Joe Mixon with this second pick. So I'm just going to sort of see who's there and what's there, and not just feel locked into going with a wide receiver heavy approach after that Saquon Barkley pick.
So Cal is the one who made the YouTube thumbnail for this, and he asked who we should do. And I was like, oh, just do Najee Harris. Najee Harris is getting a lot of buzz. Najee Harris played a bunch of first-team snaps with the Steelers, and Cal has stabbed us in the back and taken Najee Harris with the 14th overall pick. So I see where your loyalties lie, Cal. I get it. I'm just going to have to torment you during streams throughout the rest of the week. You just know that this will be remembered. Okay, Nick goes with Stephon Diggs, Alicia with Calvin Ridley. JJ goes Joe Mixon. Was that just because Mixon fell further than you were expecting him to?
Sort of. I mean, I was between him and Antonio Gibson. I think that they're in the same tier. You can go either direction. I just feel a little bit better about Mixon's floor from the standpoint of volume through the air. But I do think Gibson has a top 5 ceiling absolutely this year. So if anyone's listening to this and you're freaking out that I went Joe Mixon over Antonio Gibson, I understand. You can go Antonio Gibson if you'd like to. But yeah, I saw those two guys. And after them, I felt like there was a decent dip. I think there's maybe one more running back that I would feel good about, but a decent dip after those guys. So I just wanted to lock in that RB2, and then I'll probably look to wide receiver in the third.
So maybe you were right about people watching this stream, because Sam did go with Antonio Gibson with that next pick as you were talking about him, which puts Brandon back on the clock here. All right, Brandon. So you got your arch nemesis Derrick Henry. What you doing here with the second pick?
I'm going to go receiver because, like JJ said, I think there's a teardrop. I just literally wrote an article today about Justin Jefferson, so I felt compelled to him. I felt drawn to him. One of the best age 21 seasons we've ever seen in football. So I just I had him on the brain. Just went with Justin Jefferson.
So Tom got the stack because I think he had Kelsey as a first round
pick. Did,
Tom Vecchio, of course. Those of you who watch here know Tom. Tom is in this draft. He went with Mahomes, got the Kelsey stack, DK Metcalf taken, and I haven't gotten Darren Waller yet. And he has this little Q nut next to him. It sounds like the ankle is okay, so I'm not too worried. And I want to lock up that tight end spot. I feel more inclined to get one of those top tight ends in a best ball situation where I can't stream tight ends. So I'm going to take Darren Waller there, someone who I haven't really gotten a whole lot of so far this year. Rob, you're up at the turn here. You got your Christian McCaffrey. What you looking to address next?
I'm kind of in the same vein as you there. I'm thinking tight end, but it's tough. I'm going to go Pitts. I'm going to go crazy.
Okay, Kyle Pitts goes in the second round
Kittle.
To Rob.
I'm going to go Pitts over Kittle there. And then, for me, I'm scared of it, but I also really, really, really think it's going to be a good year in Tennessee. So I'm going to go A.J. Brown.
Okay, so you go A.J. Brown, and that's probably going to push me towards Keenan Allen. It's between Keenan Allen and Clyde Edwards-Helaire, given that I could get access to the Kansas City offense, but I feel like I do want to get Keenan Allen. It is after what I would at least deem to be that tier fall off that Brandon and JJ were alluding to before. I do think that Allen is a tier below Justin Jefferson specifically, but I still think it's worthwhile to take in there. CEH, Ryan just picked him, and I was very tempted to go with CEH just because, again, could get a passing down role for the best offense in football, could be a running back tied to Patrick Mahomes. That's something that I always want to get access to. It was a tough decision for sure, but I think that I do feel okay with Keenan Allen. The floor there is just so good. Justin Herbert has been tremendous, so I do feel good about that. Rob, who were you considering outside of A.J. Brown for that second pick?
I was honestly considering another running back, but then I'm looking at the running backs, and it's just like, it's right now we're at a spot. At the time, it was pretty much Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and then the rest was a fall off. So, and I was kind of thinking the same thing you were at the tight end there. And for me, with the first pick, I wanted to come out with a tight end, either one of the picks, and I'm looking at it, and I might be crazy for it, but I think I kind of trust Matt Ryan more than either of the San Francisco quarterbacks combined. I don't know if that's crazy, but I like Pitts. I like it. I don't know. I don't know. Kittle's not my cup of tea, I don't think.
Okay, so I like Kittle a lot. I've got him 22nd overall for this year. I think that I could possibly be too high on him, as Bennett just takes Kittle there. But the reason that I am so inclined to take him is because I have a lot of faith in this offense having just like massive levels of efficiency. I want touchdowns out of my tight ends. I think that they will generate those. So although the overall passing volume might not be super high, I think there'll be touchdowns, and I know that he himself will be efficient, and the overall offense should be efficient too. So that's why I like Kittle quite a bit. But I mean, Pitts is fun. And Rob, like, I know we are playing this
too, where that's part of it too, where I'm just like, you know what? I like this dude. This dude's a big monster. He looks impressive as heck. Why not? Let's roll the dice. Let's have some fun.
Okay, so we did have a question over here from someone actually in the draft. So clearly Abe is watching. Abe was asking about that first pick, the first turn. He picked he's about to pick here once again. Should I just pick 2 wide receivers there at the turn? Best running backs on the board were Taylor, Mixon, and Harris. So the picks that Abe did wind up going with were Devontae Adams, Jonathan Taylor. So he's asking, should he have gone with a second wide receiver in addition to Devontae, or should he have gone with Jonathan Taylor? So JD, I want to direct this to you. So would you have gone Jonathan Taylor at that spot, or would you have gone Calvin Ridley, Stephon Diggs, someone like that with them on the board over Jonathan Taylor?
No, I mean, I think it was a good turn for Abe there. I think it made sense. A lot of people are going to be hesitant with Jonathan Taylor right now, because of the Carson Wentz injury. But Wentz seems to be on the earlier side of that timetable. I mean, look, my feeling with Jonathan Taylor before and after that Carson Wentz injury was that I was out on him before the injury, but I was more in on him after the injury because I think people were sort of overstating Carson Wentz's impact a little bit. And the fact that they were assuming that he would be on the latter part of that timetable as opposed to the earlier part of the timetable. And so I think that, at the 1-2 turn for Jonathan Taylor, it makes a lot of sense. The difference for me between, a guy like Taylor and someone like Nick Chubb, where they score points, they're projected to score points in a pretty similar way, where they're both early down backs, don't see a lot of receiving work or a ton of receiving work, is that just because, you have other pass catching backs on that team or on those teams. I do think that Jonathan Taylor's ceiling as a receiver is a little bit higher than what we'll probably see from Nick Chubb unless an injury happens. I'm on the clock right now. And so that's why I'd probably be more okay going Jonathan Taylor. That probably didn't make that much sense, but I have to now pick.
Okay, so we're going to make JJ talk while he's on the clock intentionally. Again, just the whole point of this draft is sabotage. That is my goal here, at least personally. J.K. Dobbins went to Nick. Alicia went with DeAndre Swift. So running back starting to go, and JJ goes Amari Cooper. And on the subject of Amari Cooper, Brandon, you took CeeDee Lamb with your last pick. You're about to pick, so I'm going to distract you now and ask you a question. Was that tied to Amari Cooper not being fully healthy, or do you just have a lot of faith in CeeDee Lamb, faith in the Cowboys offense? What drew you towards a very good and very fun player, outside of the fact that he's very good and very fun?
Well, Jim, I love the Cowboys offense. You know that I'm a big Dak Prescott fan, but a lot of it had to do with the fact that my Excel crashed and I didn't have my rankings up, and I panicked, so I took CeeDee Lamb. So that had a lot to do with it. I
appreciate the honesty.
I'm not here to lie to the people,
I mean, I do it. We do it all the time, Why not? So, okay, I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do, and honestly, I
got a lot of these quarterbacks here. I like Josh Allen more than everyone else. I might just go with Josh Allen here and see what comes back to me.
Okay. So you did go Josh Allen, which puts Tom on the clock. Was it because you were unenthused with these skill position players at that point, or what drew you towards Allen?
Yeah, I think just in a best ball format, Josh Allen has a lot of appeal. And I'm down on Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson specifically for different reasons. And I think that there's a little bit of an uninspiring group of skill position players here. So I saw the drop off being bigger at quarterback.
I was pretty annoyed because I did want to go Chris Carson, but then Tom took him. I should probably not set my queue, given people can see what I'm putting in my queue. That seems suboptimal, but
Jim, don't flatter yourself, man.
Yeah.
I don't know if people are drafting based on who's in your queue.
That's fair.
So Jim, why'd you go Miles Sanders, Jim?
Because of my rankings. I put a lot more thought into my rankings than I have into this, and kind of like Brandon, I'm panicking because I had to talk at the same time as trying to pick. So I'm like on my other computer, I'm like control Fing to like try to find where I've got guys.
You pay attention to who you have to draft next. I'll talk about Miles Sanders a little bit. So I think Brandon, I don't know where you're at with Miles Sanders either, or Rob either, but my general thought with him is that I'm a little bit worried about the pass catching potential right now, even though that was something that I thought that he could do well, especially coming out of school. I think that where you got him, Jim, was perfectly fine. So I'm not trying to like, poop all over that.
No, pick. It's fine. Poop all over me, JJ. It's not like I'm the host or anything here. Cool. Fine.
I think it was it was correct where you got him. I'm just saying that, if you look at the trajectory of everything Miles Sanders, he's utilized as a receiver his first 2 years well enough from a target share standpoint. And then you look at the actions of the Eagles. They do utilize Boston Scott a little bit. They go out and get Kenneth Gainwell, who was a really good pass catcher in college. And now they're talking about how he's dropping all these passes in camp. It's just a little bit worrisome. There's just some worry there with him. But again, I think that's starting to become embedded in his cost, given where you were able to get him there. So it makes sense that you were able to. You're still getting him at a reasonable price.
I'm curious, would you have taken him over Josh Jacobs, Travis Etienne, Mike Davis, Kareem Hunt, Myles Gaskin, guys like that? Or would you have gone with one of them over Sanders?
Yeah, I would go with, I think that you take him over those players. And so that's why, I saw him as almost like a tier break. Maybe you could throw Etienne in there because I'm high on Etienne in his situation as a pass catcher there in Jacksonville. Yeah. But there's a clear tier break. And I think Jacobs is like far below Miles Sanders. So it made sense to get him where you got him.
So as we go through this draft, I kind of feel like I need to move Etienne up because I've got him at 46, which is actually the highest of the three of us. But like from a sentiment perspective, I didn't draft him, but I was tempted to do so. And I feel like that means I should probably just move him up from where I've got him right now. If I was that tempted to actually take him at that spot. Brandon, you've taken Cooper Kupp. How dare you? We do not speak that name in these streets. How could you possibly scorn me this way?
I wanted running back, but ETN went right before me to Tom. I wanted Julio Jones as well. I don't like to take positions that I feel like I need when I'm unenthused with the talent, similar to like what led me to Josh Allen.
Right.
I just like to kind of pick the players who I think are the best values at least at the top of the draft. I'll be a little bit more position sensitive later on, but I mean, it kind of led me to Cooper Kupp, who I'm not the hugest fan of, but I thought he was the best receiver there.
So we got the initials connection here. JJ went TJ. JJ Zacharyson took TJ Hawkinson. It does seem like there's a pretty drastic tier fall off at tight end. Like if I look at the top tight ends by ADP after Hawkinson went, it's Robert Tonyan, and we love Big Shot Bob. We love Big Shot Bob here on the FanDuel / numberFire content team. But I'm not going to take Big Shot Bob anywhere near TJ Hawkinson. It seems like JJ just kind of exploiting a tier drop off there, correct?
Yeah, the other thing too is I've done a lot of research on tight end breakouts this offseason. I mean, I did it for running backs and wide receivers as well. But one of the things that was very clear is that when a tight end in the middle rounds, I mean, TJ Hawkinson is a fringe middle round guy because I really looked at rounds 6 through 9 there. But tight ends that are drafted in the middle rounds, they hit at an exponentially better rate when they're the first pass catcher being drafted from their team. So TJ Hawkinson being the first Lions pass catcher that gets drafted by ADP, you should feel confident in that. Mark Andrews being the first pass catcher being drafted, you should feel confident in that. And then after those 5 guys, the top 5 or 6 tight ends are off the board. That's when things, as you noted, there's a pretty big drop in tier there. And so that's the main reason why I wanted to lock up Hawkinson and not really have to worry about the tight end position that much through the rest of the draft.
You did fail to mention the biggest reason you would possibly take TJ Hawkinson, which is to get exposure to a Jared Goff offense. So I will add that in for you. As you pick here once again, you went with Deontay Johnson, of course, the guy who gets as many targets as he can possibly handle for that Pittsburgh offense. And it's interesting because obviously it does seem like they want to run the ball more this year, but I feel like that's another thing that, that's accounted for in the cost of these Steelers guys, because Deontay goes pretty late. Juju Smith-Schuster goes pretty late. Chase Claypool went earlier in this draft than a lot of other ones. But JJ, I mean, like, targets are targets, and Deontay's probably going to get a lot of those once again this year.
Look, people hate on Deontay because he had a lot of drops last year, and that, his average depth of target was low. His average depth of target was low because the Steelers' offensive line was horrendous last season, and they had to get the ball out quickly. That's why Ben Roethlisberger wasn't sacked a whole lot, and why his time to throw was quickest in the NFL. So Deontay Johnson, to me, he's locked in for a pretty high target share. I actually do like Chase Claypool to have a higher ceiling than Deontay Johnson. Johnson has, I think, the easier floor. But yeah, I mean, I love Johnson. I think that he's an incredibly good route runner, a really good wide receiver. And don't forget, everyone, when wide receivers are seeing targets, even if they're not converting at a super efficient rate, if you're seeing a target, that means you're talented. Targets are a talent statistic. Wide receivers have to get open in order for quarterbacks to throw them the ball. And the fact that Deontay Johnson was seeing as much volume as he saw last season, that's only a good thing. It's indicative of talent. So I'm excited about Deontay again in year 2. I really like Chase Claypool as well. I think the Steelers offense, could be one that's a little bit better than folks are projecting.
We've been talking about teardrops, and I was sweating for like the past 5 picks. I was nervous to put this guy in my queue because I thought he might go. But I think there is a big tier fall off after Dak Prescott. Actually, we've already gotten past the teardrop. I know he's hurt. Pick. I don't care. I do not care.
It's a great pick. It's a great pick.
I'm taking Dak there every single time. Quarterbacks tend to go pretty high in FanDuel because the ADP is meshed between smaller leagues and these 12-team leagues. So quarterbacks go early, but getting Dak at 6.11, given where the quarterbacks have gone, I was sweating there quite a bit. Like, I was like, do I put him in my queue? Do I kind of blow this? But I think people were shying away as a result of the injury, which I get. So, but I really, really, really wanted Dak there to get a piece of that offense. Now, Rob, you've gone James Robinson here for first pick. I'll let you make your second pick, and then I'll ask you about that one as well, because I don't want to distract you too much. That seems a little harsh. And you went with Antonio Brown. Okay, so James Robinson, Antonio Brown. What sold you on those two guys specifically?
Well, the way I see it now, we're kind of in a space where a lot of these guys are, for the most part, are sharing time, as we'd say, right? So obviously Robinson there and Jacksonville is going to be sharing the backfield. But the one thing I did like, and looking back at Antonio Brown's Super Bowl, even, I think he had the most targets, or the second most targets in the whole game. I mean, it's a Super Bowl, but at the end of the day, though, it's still the Super Bowl. Tom Brady trusted to throw the ball to Antonio Brown, and like you guys are saying, he got open, right? There's a reason why he got all the targets in the game itself, and it's a risk, obviously, with Antonio Brown. Just you don't know if he's going to play 1 week to the next, but from what it seems like, he's on the right path. So I'm kind of just banking on, him kind of playing alongside Mike Evans and that offense, and kind of making the most of an opportunity there with Tampa Bay. And James Robinson just kind of being a guy who can, run the ball when ETN's out there doing some crazy whatever they're doing with ETN down there in the offense. But James Robinson, I think, a consistent back. And for me, I just needed another running back, honestly, too.
And you were talking about Antonio Brown. I'm not super into Antonio Brown this year, but I will say the one point you made that I tend to value quite a bit is you were talking about his getting targets Super Bowl. And I think that what we want to do is believe teams when they show us what they want to do. And the Bucs showed when things mattered the most, they want to get the ball to Antonio Brown. So although I'm not super on him this year, I think that line of thinking is correct, and to me, that applies to someone who will probably come up later on in Zach Moss, where Zach Moss, he's hurt right now, so that's definitely something to consider. But last year in the playoffs, Moss looked like he was going to be like a focal point for the Bills in their playoff game against the Colts. He had 4 targets early in that game, then got hurt and we didn't get to see it. But like when things were on the line, they had Zach Moss out there. He was catching passes and he was involved in that offense. So I think the broad point of valuing what teams tell us when things matter the most is a massive key thing to keep in mind. Okay, let's catch up here with some picks. Brandon, you went with Big Shot Bob Tunyon to fill that tight end slot. I think that was your first tight end, correct? Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Yep. I know touchdown regression is on the way for that entire offense. Aaron Rodgers, if you combine his net expected points, which is our expected points metric at numberFire, and the yardage that he threw for, he overperformed his touchdown expectation by the biggest amount since 2000. So it's coming, but at least with Tunyon, I think that the share of touchdowns is still going to be quite high. And for a best ball format, I'm all right. I don't have to chase that week to week. When he scores, I kind of benefit from that. So.
Yeah, I mean, get exposure to good offenses, which is why JJ got Cortland Sutton, I assume. You got the Jared Goff offense before. Now you're getting either Drew Lock or Teddy Bridgewater, both former guys for me. So I think you're just basking in the most efficient quarterback play you could possibly get here.
I sense you just coming back at me after I trashed Miles Sanders a little bit.
I'm not trashing. You know how much I actually like. I try to hide it. I try not to make it public how much I like these guys because they're not good, but that I'm being genuine when I speak well of Jared Goff, Teddy Bridgewater, and Drew Lock.
It's true. Yeah, I mean, look, Cortland Sutton has a pretty low ADP on FanDuel, and I had to sort of scroll down to see him sitting there. Yeah. I went after Cortland Sutton, who I like Jerry Jeudy straight up more at this point. Sure. This season, but Sutton is still going to be a red zone threat and still get his. I mean, he's someone that you can confidently project to see, like a 20% plus target share in that offense. Now I'm up on the clock. I'm a little bit nervous right now because the quarterback position is the way that it is on this platform. Mm-hmm. I kind of want to go with quarterback because I feel good about my anchors at running back and wide receiver and tight end, and I don't want to get cute. I'm thinking Jalen Hurts, but I'm a little bit worried with all the rumors going around with Deshaun Watson. I'm just going to play it safe and go with Matthew Stafford, who I think is just a high floor. Generally speaking, pocket passers, for them to have true top 5 ceilings in fantasy football, they're going to have some sort of an outlier year in touchdown rate. Last season, Tom Brady, the quintessential pocket passer, he throws 40 touchdowns. He's the second or the third highest touchdown rate of his career. And he's still the QB 10 in fantasy football on a points per game basis. So, you really need that rushing juice for sure. But I think that if you're looking at all of these later round or late-ish round, the low end QB ones in fantasy football, Stafford's one of the guys who definitely pops as someone who no one would be shocked if he had somewhat of an outlier season in touchdown rate, just given the weapons that are there, the new offense that he's in. And he's talented. He's good. So, I just went with Stafford. It's a fairly safe pick there. Not going to be stacking him though either because I already lost out on Bobby Trees and Cooper Kupp earlier on. But
and Tyler Higbee
I do think it was
now.
There's Tyler Higbee there. I do think he's a safe enough pick though.
Okay, so I am up here. I'm going to go. I want some Debo in my life. I feel like I'm higher on Debo than a lot of people. Partly because I expect him to get a couple more downfield shots this year based on what he's been talking about with his role and stuff like that. So I want Debo there. I want to bring up Ryan Hammer. He had a question earlier on. He's actually in this draft. What's up, Ryan? He was asking before, thoughts on his pick at 3. He couldn't do Henry. He had to take Kamara. And I think that's the right discussion to have because I have been nervous about who I want to rank at 3rd overall. Oh my gosh, Rob. Okay, we'll get back to Ryan in a second, but I purposely took Debo because I assumed Hardman would be there for my next pick.
I didn't know you were high on Hardman, Jim. I'll send you an offer in our Dynasty League after this. I have him.
Okay, I'll take whatever. I have Nicole
I'll talk about the question because you have to draft right now and you don't know who you're taking. So
Rob, my dog is very mad at you too. She's barking, and I'm assuming it's because of you. So Rob, we might have to kick you out of the stream at some point. Just whoa, okay, whatever. I'll just take Zach.
I was kind of in the mindset of I see Kansas City. I want a piece of that offense. I think that's
Nicole. I mean, that's the right mindset. That's what you should be doing. Just don't do it when it negatively impacts me next time. That'd be great.
So
I went Zach Moss instead.
The Derrick Henry, Alvin Kamara thing. Here's the bottom line for Derrick Henry. I know we talked about him a little bit to start off the show. Derrick Henry's coming out of a season where he rushed. He's one of 8 running backs in NFL history to rush for 2,000 plus yards. He scores 17 touchdowns. I don't know how Derrick Henry can have a better season if we assume he's utilized in a similar way through the air as he's been utilized. And maybe that changes. But I don't know, it's the 6th year in the league. Is he all of a sudden gonna be a 10% plus target share type back? I doubt it.
Yeah.
And so that's why, and by the way, last year he was RB3 in a points per game basis, behind Kamara and Dalvin Cook. That I did my analysis more for full PPR. This is half PPR, but it still, converts in some way. I just think that, you're buying into, to some degree. I have him at RB5. So, but you're buying into some degree, you're buying into a ceiling.
Okay, so I'm going to go and I'm going to have Rob and Brandon fight on air because Rob took Leonard Fournette, and Brandon took Ronald Jones, he of the stone hands. Brandon, do you prefer Rojo over Fournette, Lenny, or is it just the way things broke for you?
Just the way things broke. I have a hard time with both of them this year, but once Tom Brady got acclimated to that offense, they were basically the best offense in football. And I think their full season stats, they still show it, but with their, if you kind of look at just whenever things started to click, once they got Antonio Brown acclimated, just an elite offense. And I figured, all these running backs are in committees to some degree at this point. So might as well take one that's tied to one of the best offenses in football.
Okay, and Rob, what was the selling point for you on Lenny for your most recent pick?
I hate to go back to recency bias, but Super Bowl playoffs. Again, who'd they give the ball to, right? So I think it really similar to what Brandon said. It was kind of a coin flip at that point because Fournette could also just be on the shelf, you know what I mean? And then okay, there we go. So I just kind of went with recency bias, I guess, in my mind, and also getting a piece of that offense. It's a good offense, and it should be good this year too.
Okay, I got a question over on Twitch from Glenn Sweden. I'm assuming that's how you say that. Glenn is wondering, who should you draft between Fields or Lance? Who has the highest ceiling? I'm going to send this over to JJ, the late round quarterback guy. A couple of guys who fit that mold very well. Obviously, we don't know yet who will start for either team, but both these guys getting a lot of positive buzz in camp. Both these guys highly efficient college quarterbacks. Both these guys runners. Both these guys look good when you watch them as well. And at least for Lance, a tremendous situation in San Francisco. So JJ, if you had to pick between Lance or Fields, who is your preference right now?
I'm going with Lance because I think the ceiling is higher. I think it's a little bit different, and you could flip-flop a little bit more in a best ball league where I have more confidence that Justin Fields is going to start earlier than Trey Lance. But I just think that San Francisco is going to get to the point where they just don't have another choice because he's showing off so much in camp. And I just like the situation a lot more for Lance. Number one, I think Lance is going to have more designed runs and be a bigger rusher at the NFL level. So that's going to bring some juice in fantasy football. But then number two, I just like the personnel a lot more in San Francisco. It's kind of hard not to. And the situation with Kyle Shanahan. So I'm a big Trey Lance guy. I like Justin Fields a lot too, though. If you're waiting on the quarterback position, those are the two that I would go after.
And quarterbacks do tend to go pretty fast in these formats, as we alluded to before. Currently 13 quarterbacks off the board. And actually, this one's been a bit more reserved at that position than a lot of other FanDuel best ball drafts have been, I think, because we're all drafting live and not no one's auto drafting right now. I think that's a massive factor there. It's allowing us to actually pick quarterbacks in a more sane manner than has been the case previously. Okay, so JJ, you're picking here in round number 10. You do have your quarterback. You got 5 wide receivers so far. I'm a little bit jealous because I have been neglecting wide receiver, and I feel pretty bad about it. But you and Joe Burrow, what sold you on Burrow there?
Honestly, I could have waited and gone with like a Lance or something, but
you couldn't have because Bennett just took him now.
Yeah, there you go. Or I could have just gotten Lance. I think I have Lance higher than Burrow in my rankings, but I'm playing it a little bit safer with this build, mostly because I feel good about the other assets that are on the team. If I need a little bit higher of a ceiling, then I would just go with a guy like Trey Lance. But, I just think, Burrow's set up in a pretty good spot. Having Burrow and Stafford, I'm done with the quarterback position. Feel good about those two guys. I think they're both low-end QB1s this year. And I got a little bit of a Cincy stack, sort of, with Joe Mixon. So that's at least something. But I just went for safety there. I think Burrow's a good enough bet to give you a low-end QB1 season this year.
All right, so I'm on the board, and I need wide receiver help pretty badly. The problem is I think I should take Michael Thomas, and I'm going to take him. Do I want to take him? No. Will I? Yes. And I feel a lot better about Thomas in best ball than I do season long, because I don't want to burn that bench spot in season long, because it's such a key to have these guys who could have roles, like running backs who could have a role. I want to use my bench spots on guys like that. I don't want to use it on a guy who probably going to be out until mid-October at the earliest, and maybe even much later than that. So in season long, if this were a waivers league, I would not have taken Michael Thomas there. But I think in this format, I actually feel okay that I'll take Darnell Mooney here to get another wide receiver, because I'm pretty behind at that spot. But I wouldn't have taken
Mooney's your nemesis, man.
No, that was when his quarterback was Mitchell Trubisky. When his quarterback is either Andy Dalton, which is better, I guess, or Justin Fields, I'll take it. Like the reason I hated Darnell Mooney last year is because he would get all these deep targets, but it didn't matter because his quarterbacks were poop. But like his quarterbacks might not be poop anymore, so I'm good with it. You know, he's my guy now. I also have to do it to because we don't have Ryan Williams in the stream today, because Ryan, obviously the other stuff going on, but like I have to represent Ryan Williams here and get his wants and needs, and we have to get the Darnell Mooney trutherism out there. So as a proxy for Ryan, I will take Darnell Mooney, but also because I do like him here. So I felt like I had to do that. But
also, I gotta clarify. I was trying to put Matt Ryan in my queue, and it became my turn, and so that's why I drafted Matt Ryan. I just wanted to make that known. I would have waited a little bit on quarterback, and Matt Ryan was about as good as Andy Dalton was last year without Julio Jones. So I'm not that high on Matt Ryan, but I wanted to explain that little snafu there.
Sure, buddy. I believe you. Sure. Definitely believe that's exactly how things went down. Brandon, I do want to ask you, though, about season long versus best ball, because that was a big dilemma with me with Michael Thomas, because I was saying where if it were season long, I would not have taken him because I don't want to burn that bench spot. Best ball, it's different because I have more. I mean, the bench spots, obviously, I can't add people on waivers and stuff like that. So that's what allowed me to take Michael Thomas. Where would the tipping point for you have been on Michael Thomas?
I think about here feels right, just based on what you could expect. Now, I think it does depend on the quarterback situation. I would not be surprised, and this is subjective, and I try not to be, but if Michael Thomas maybe misses more time, because I don't think he's very happy. But I think this is about right, because Michael Thomas at Michael Thomas's level is still one of the highest target share receivers that we can get. And I don't care really who your quarterback is, volume leads to production.
Yeah, I think that's probably correct. Cal took Justin Fields. Why do we need to get Cal out of here? I could run this stream. Like he's just listening to our stuff and taking the players we want to take. I was probably going to take Fields around the next time to get my second quarterback, but now I'm going to have to settle for, oh boy, Kirk Cousins or something. That's upsetting. Or would rather not do that, but we'll see. Okay, so Abe decided to go with the other Saints wide receiver here, Marquez Callaway. Also got Sammy Watkins. So I think those are interesting picks as guys who could have roles. Watkins now with Marquise Brown banged up for the Ravens, and Callaway as a result of Michael Thomas's injury, but also it sounds like he's been impressing a bit during camp thus far. We'll see how things shake out at the quarterback position there. JJ, you have James Conner, and a guy who had a rough year last year, to be sure, but goes to Arizona. We know Chase Edmonds has, in general, not been a guy trusted towards the end zone. What was the reason for you to pull the trigger on James Conner?
Yeah, look, I mean, I'm not high on Conner this year compared to a lot of fantasy analysts, because there's a lot of fantasy analysts that like James Conner and think that he's a big value. I did research this offseason that led me to what I dubbed the Ambiguous Rb1 Theory, which essentially, here, I'm going to make my pick really quick. Wait, okay, good. Which essentially, I thought that I picked Devin Singletary, but I got Marquise Brown. So I did this research on the Ambiguous RB1 theory that basically says if you have two running backs in the middle rounds historically over the last 10 years, and they're from the same team, so that's between round 6 and 9, and they're from the same team, the RB1 on those teams by ADP breaks out and has a much better season at a much more significant rate than the RB2s, which tells you that we're actually pretty good at predicting who these RB1s are going to be. And so Chase Edmonds would fit that a little bit this year. Trey Sermon over Raheem Mostert, Travis Etienne over James Robinson, Javonte Williams over Melvin Gordon. So those are the players that you hypothetically should be targeting. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't target, especially in best ball. It's a little bit different. This is all from a season-long perspective.
Yeah.
But, in best ball, I still think that James Conner is going to see goal line work in that Arizona offense. I still think that James Conner is going to see some early down work in the offense, and I don't have to predict when that's going to happen. So it's a lot easier to draft a guy like Conner in a situation like this, an environment like this, as opposed to if any of you are drafting this weekend in your home league. I'm not as high in James Conner because I don't think he's going to be all that predictable. But in this kind of format, it's a lot easier to go after him. And he slipped. He fell into the mid-11th round. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that he had that IR next to his name, but he's on the COVID list and he's not really actually banged up.
Right. So that makes sense here. Okay, I'm on the clock with my 12th round pick and don't really want to pick any of these guys. I guess I could go with like a Randall Cobb to get exposure to the Packers. Not really feeling great about that one, but I need to get more tight ends because I have just Darren Waller and I have
so I took Randall Cobb.
Well, no, I was going to say I was in the middle of a sentence, Brandon. And okay, look at the screen, Brandon, and look at these tight ends. I was going to take Evan Engram potentially, but then
that's why I took Evan Engram.
Yeah,
man.
I know. I get it.
Also, your nemesis. Jim's got a lot of nemesis out here.
He was my nemesis when they were using him like Jason Witten last year because Jason Garrett can't wrap his head around the fact that a tight end would be not Jason Witten. So I hated him. But like that usage eventually changed. So my tune on him changed. But like, do I want Gronk? No. Do I want Jared Cook? No. Do I want Gerald Everett? Maybe later. Hunter Henry is banged up. Going to miss a couple weeks. Like the tight end situation is pretty grim. So I really didn't have a ton of choice. Traquan Smith apparently hasn't been practicing for a while now. Rashad Bateman just had surgery. I don't really know what I want to do here. There's nothing super enticing. Is there a running back I want? Okay, let's panic. All right, nope, they're all bad too. Quarterback, oh my goodness, I'm going to time out. Tua. Okay.
That's been my thought process for about the past 6 rounds.
Like, I didn't, oh man.
Tua. You like Tua?
I love Tua, but I don't want to take him right now.
Well, that wasn't a bad pick.
I don't know. I panicked. I don't know. Like,
I mean, look at the other quarterbacks that are on the board right now. It's not like
I know. That's true.
I think it was a good pick, Jim.
The reason I went to Tua in my panic is because I do believe that Tua Tagovailoa will be more efficient this year. I feel like once he gets Will Fuller back, both in the injury and the suspension, I feel like that'll be a solid thing. Apparently, Albert Wilson's doing a lot of stuff in practice, in training camp. Devontae Parker's there. Jalen Waddell is there. I believe it's Waddell. I think that's actually the way it's pronounced. I don't know. I'm going to double check this, but someone was tweeting about this. Anyway,
I saw someone say that that's how he says it or something.
I think his family says it that way. I always feel like a weirdo when I say it that way, though.
Yeah, I can't do it.
It's like the Tyrod Taylor thing. I feel like a weirdo, but like, hey, I mean, if that's how they say it, I'll say it.
Oh, that's Kels. That's the Kels now, too.
Oh, my goodness. That was intentional, it seemed like, where he just wanted to make everyone feel bad. But Rob, you went with Cam Newton and Cole Beasley there. Let's see. I'm going to pull up your team here. It's your funsies. Where is it? I can't read in my defense. Okay, here we go. So
hey, Jim,
Aaron Rodgers.
I think they're sorted by order.
Oh, well, that doesn't help me. If people who watch the MLB DFS stream know that I don't know sequential order. Like
it's really good. Teams, it's really good UI, Jim. We have to promote the UI.
It is good UI, but I'm stupid. The user interface doesn't matter if the user is very stupid, and that's me. Most FanDuel users are much smarter than me, so I'm a little slow. But I can never find sequential order. Anyway, Rob, you've got Aaron Rodgers and Cam Newton. Are you done at quarterback? Or you can try to add to that later on.
I think I'm done at quarterback. I don't really love anything. I mean, I was queuing up quarterbacks to add, and Fields was going, and all these guys were going. So I was like, all right, cool. I mean, the only other guy I could maybe consider, like, I think that I kind of like a little bit is Jameis, but only because it's, might not take a flyer at this point. And the same thing obviously can be said about Deshaun Watson. That's a high flyer to take, I guess you could say. So I might go back to QB, but I was just speaking of the devil. See, Abe took him, so off the board anyway. But yeah, so I just went. Honestly, I was gonna go Cobb. I wanted the Cobb stack with Rodgers. I believed in Rodgers getting his boy back in town. So I was looking at that, but then I decided to go Cole Beasley. His targets were pretty high last year, so I hope that kind of translates over this year. So that was my thinking there at the end. We're getting in the space where it's, we're kind of hoping for a lot of good outcomes for a lot of these guys. Maybe they're getting a lot of good, favorable playing time.
We need good outcomes because the median outcomes ain't great, man, for anyone at this point in the draft. That's why I was so flustered trying to make my last pick, because there's no one I actually want to take. So it has been a rough one for sure. Tight end starting to go. JJ goes Hunter Henry. We saw.
Don't love it.
Alicia took a tight end. He's a quarterback here, but he's a tight end. It's Taysom Hill. Cal took Zach Ertz. Nick took Jared Cook. So all the tight ends are starting to go. Bennett goes Anthony Firkser. I'm actually okay with the fact I didn't take a tight end, but they're starting to go now. And now Sam goes Blake Jarwin. I was going to take. I wasn't like, the reason I didn't take Jarwin earlier is because of the Dalton Schultz love that we've been reading out of camp. It seems like Schultz might have a bigger role, but like I was still going to take Jarwin because I believe in the talent. So I need to get a tight end, I guess.
I really hated the tight end. I was hoping for Gerald Everett in the last round when I took Nyheim Hines, but Everett got sniped a few picks earlier. I don't really. This is the first time I've basically like drafted Hunter Henry this offseason. I'm certainly not high. I'm pretty high on Jonnu. I think Jonnu is the dude that you would want. But just the way that things are trending with tight ends right now, it's kind of insane. So I just had to jump on the guy that I liked most to pair with Hawkinson.
Okay, so I feel good about this. I was worried I wouldn't get Austin Hooper. The only reason I'm taking Austin Hooper is because I read a tweet, not even a full story, a tweet from Mary Kay Cabot today, a great Cleveland.com beat reporter, talking about how Austin Hooper would be more involved this year. I didn't get to read the thing. I was like, okay, Mary Kay said this. She's smart. I'll go Austin Hooper. Sure. Great process, Jim, right?
I mean, end of round 14, sure, just go with a tweet. That's all that, I mean.
What better reason could there be to draft a tight end? Then I saw a tweet, seen to tweet. Okay, so I'm going to address tight end later because I think there are a couple guys I can get later on who I feel okay about. So I'm going to go with either a running back or a wide receiver. I'm going to go Nelson Aguilar, get some Patriots love in here. Aguilar obviously played really well with Las Vegas last year, got a pretty fat contract. There's been a lot of Jacoby Myers love recently, but I kind of like Aguilar, so I went there. Rob, you did go with Rob Gronkowski and your namesake, I guess we could say.
Yeah,
and
I'm Tampa Bay too. Yeah, I'm Tampa Bay over here too. Now I have I have Fournette, Brown, and Gronk. I mean, I'm just looking at Gronk. I'm just at this point, it's just like I kind of can't. It's Gronk. You know what I mean? At the very least, favorable matchup. I kind of got to go there. And Sterling Shepard, honestly, I'm a Giants fan. I like how he plays on the field, and I kind of was like looking at it. We're at the stage here where I'm just like looking at some of these dudes, and it's old reliable here, or can this guy produce? Have I seen him do some stuff here? And you're mixing that in and hoping, at least for me and the Giants, that he's gonna do something this year. So
because you're a Giants fan, I get to ask you thoughts on Danny Dimes. We're gonna see a year 3 breakout.
I'm looking at him too right now on the. I think he has to, like, coming from an outsider, not even like a fantasy thing. Like, it's a big year for the Giants, right? Like, Barkley's coming off an injury. Danny Dimes is, coming up with a contract. Barkley with a contract too. It's a big year. Like, besides it being New York and the NFC East and all the lore that comes with the Giants, it's a big year for the Giants. Like, this could be a year that they really make or break a lot of the roster outside of the guys they signed for long-term deals. But I'm hoping if he doesn't turn the ball over, he gets a little bit more Carson Wentz. He holds the ball a little bit too much longer than he would like. Then maybe we're doing something good. But the turnovers have to stop with him.
Yeah, he cannot hold the ball behind those tackles unless things keep getting better. Thomas, he needs to get rid of the ball. So agreed there. Carson Wentz is what we want to avoid at quarterback. I actually missed a couple of questions on the chat. My bad, guys. Let's talk to Matt first. He's a dynasty question. He can trade Alexander Madison in a 2022 third-round rookie pick for Justin Fields. I am assuming based on that this is a single quarterback league. So JJ, single quarterback league. Would you trade Madison and a 2022 third for Justin Fields?
Yeah, I would. Even though it's single quarterback league, Madison. The thing with Alexander Madison is when he's gotten the call, he hasn't even been, a passing specialist back. We saw last year against Atlanta when the game script flipped for Minnesota. I mean, everyone remembers that game because everyone was using Madison in DFS. But Madison was not the dude in that negative game script like we saw with Dalvin Cook. He's just purely a handcuff, and now he's more of an early down handcuff too. And a 2022 third is not going to be all that valuable in a single quarterback league. So I'm taking Justin Fields there.
I agree on that. Let's stick with JJ here and talk to Don't Touch My Radio over on Twitch. Who are some late round rookies you're targeting? So JJ, you went with Gio Bernard, not a rookie, but who are some late round rookies you are turning to this year?
I did draft 2 rookie wide receivers in this draft, though, because I have Amon-Ra St. Brown and Devontae Smith on my team.
Okay, perfect.
So Amon-Ra St. Brown, someone who's likely – I had to get the Lions stack, of course. I mean, who wouldn't want to gobble up as many Detroit Lions targets as you can with Jared Goff? Amon-Ra St. Brown will likely play the slot, and he's sort of like a thick slot. He should be able to do a lot there for them without, good perimeter wide receivers. I mean, Tyrell Williams is going to probably play the X there at this point. So I don't mind Amon-Ra as a late round dart throw. I like Devontae Smith in the middle round still. I know the injury's there, but he's someone who, if you look at historical ADP data, and if you are getting the top pass catcher on a team without any other pass catchers being drafted around them, it's usually a good sign. Devontae Smith is good, and I think that he's going to be able to walk into a 18+% target share in the Eagles offense with room to grow there. So I really like Devontae Smith this year in redraft. I don't know. I mean, those are some of the random, the two. I mean, they're both on my team, so I will call them out. Those are the two that are like popping into my head right now for whatever reason. But
Ryan with Rondale Moore. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I've seen Rondale Moore getting more and more hype. Look, he's a really interesting prospect, smaller dude who had insane production early on in college at Purdue, which Jim probably knows well all about.
I do not. How dare you?
As a Northwestern guy.
He had like 350 yards against Northwestern in his first freaking game. It was fun to watch, despite the fact it was just gutting to watch the entire time. Yeah,
look, I mean, the way they utilize him, I'm assuming that the Cardinals are going to utilize him in the slot. They should utilize him in the slot. That's sort of what he is.
I mean, he's basically Larry Fitzgerald. They're the same thing. So it's just a pretty natural progression from one to the next.
Yeah, exactly. So he didn't play a lot of traditional wide receiver in college, so it's a little bit tough comp when you're looking at college to pro, making that jump and making that transition. But it's the right offense for him. I mean, right now you have 2 guys in the perimeter in AJ Green and obviously DeAndre Hopkins, who are big dudes who can take away some of those looks and take away some of that coverage for Rondale Moore. And if Moore ends up being the dude in the slot, then he's going to get some looks. He's going to be, fairly effective from a fantasy perspective. I just, he's fine as a dart throw. I mean, that's basically I'm not like you absolutely need to get the guy. But I mean, if everything translates, he's a freak athlete. He's smaller. That's the downside, but he's a freak athlete. He's got great hands. He can do a lot close to the line of scrimmage. And I think that's how they're going to utilize him. And he can break out some big plays, which is great for best ball. So I like Rondale Moore too. If you guys want to target him late in drafts this year.
So Ryan, you were watching previously on Twitch, Ryan Hammer, who is in this draft. And if you're still watching, we're now fighting because I tried to get too cute. I was like, I can get Jerick McKinnon next time around. Figured I'd be good to go with that. And Ryan foiled those plans by taking Jerick McKinnon. Seems like he's been impressing quite a bit at Chiefs camp. And I believe in Clyde Edwards-Helaire, given the draft capital spent there, given the talent he showed in college. I believe in him. However, he's a guy who's getting a lot of buzz in camp. Ryan is watching. You wanted some insurance for CEH there, so I get it. But we're fighting, and I wanted to take him because I like the buzz and I like that offense. I wanted to get exposure there, but hey, I still like Rashad Penny. I know he's banged up once again, but Chris Carson is a guy who has had his issues and not a lot of draft capital spent there. Penny had talent coming out. I know, Brandon, you liked Rashad Penny a lot. Is he someone on your list this year, Brandon, or have you fully divorced yourself of the old Rashad Penny endorsement?
Yeah, I mean, I liked him. Has not gotten off to the right start. A lot of injuries, and now just not really. I mean, he was on my queue, and I was planning on probably taking him, but you did. But I mean, he's got now a lot of competition. I would feel better if he was just their RB2, but DJ Dallas getting some buzz. So
right.
I've kind of given up on Rashad Penny a little bit, but I would have taken him there for sure.
Yeah. I think that there's enough there to like justify a late round flyer, and we're still getting him pretty late. So I do think there's enough to do it right now. Okay. The other guy I took was Dan Arnold. There were a couple of tight ends I was considering, and it was either Dan Arnold or Dalton Schultz, because I do think that the hype he's been getting in camp is based on not just camp, but also what he did last year when Jarwin was out. Wanted to get the stack with Dak, but the reason I went Darnold, it is Dan Arnold. The Darnold connection, Darnold to Arnold, was also starting with a D. The Darnold connection there. The reason I went there was because it does seem like he has a pretty easy path to being the pass catching tight end for Carolina. We know Sam Darnold does not have the best outlook given the way things went in New York, but it's Joe Brady. It's a decent offense. We saw them be efficient last year with Teddy. Obviously, I think that Darnold is a downgrade from Teddy because everyone is a downgrade from Teddy. But I still think that Arnold, given what he showed with Arizona at times last year and at times with the Saints previously, I think that Arnold, my gosh, that's going to be terrible this year. Hopefully he's not relevant, so I don't have to worry about this. This is a nightmare. This is, wasn't there a situation where wasn't like Damian Williams and wasn't there someone else who was like the same last name? Anyway, I'm just confusing myself. It was a nightmare to write about. Arnold is going to be a nightmare too. So let's just avoid this and let's let Ian Thomas somehow win that job. So I don't have to worry about this because it's just, it's terrible. JJ, you went Donald Parham. We'll add in the Donald with Darnold. Darnold Parham. Is this just old leftover XFL love or taking a shot at a guy who has a lot of good talent?
I think people are sleeping on Parham this year as like a late dart throw. He's going to get reps. He's getting reps with the first team. He's going to run with the first team at times throughout the season. And he's 6'8". He's huge. He's massive. If any of you guys watch the XFL, you know that. If you watched him last year, you saw him as a red zone threat. And I'm banking on that sort of translating as we've seen, with other sort of like later career breakouts at the tight end position with these just like physical freaks. I think that Parham could end up being that guy, for the Chargers. So I think that, he's I have the luxury of just getting a tight end 3 because I feel good about where my lineup's at right now. And I think that, just throwing that dart and going with that insane upside, I think was worth it.
I agree. Given the state of the tight end position, you might as well swing for the fences because nobody here has a floor. So why not shoot for a guy who actually has a path to a ceiling, given, not the biggest competition for playing time there. So I went Tyrell Williams. Shout out Al Zeidenfeld, Tyrell the Gazelle back. And again, getting exposure to the Lions offense. What more could you possibly want? But just he's going to get targets. And at this point in the draft, if I can find someone who will get that, I'm going to have a hard time turning that down. Okay, second pick here. Do I want to go Donovan Peoples-Jones? Kind of do. Let's do it. We got Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry, of course, there, but Peoples-Jones, a workout freak, coming out of the draft out of Michigan. Showed some flashes at times last year. Now in his second year with Baker Mayfield, I expect that offense to be pretty solid. So I'll take Peoples-Jones there. Okay, Rob, you went Mark Ingram in another ambiguous backfield because the Texans have Phillip Lindsay, David Johnson, et cetera, and you went with Samaje Perine, who seems like probably the next man up after Joe Mixon. What drew you towards those guys?
Yeah, I was just kind of looking at the outlook there with Ingram, and the projection is that he's going to split time in Houston's backfield to start week 1 there. So, fine, let me get a piece of that. And then same thing with Samaje Perine. I was kind of looking at the one running back from Miami here at the end. I forget which one who was off the top of my head. And
Malcolm Brown?
Yes, Malcolm Brown, his goal line output there from Miami's offense with Tua, because we all know something about
Tua's going to be in the end zone often.
Yeah,
yes,
so,
I agree. Yes.
So I was looking at that. I was interested in that. But I mean, the one thing I was curious about, you guys are talking about everybody here. So when we get down to these these lower rounds here, and there's old, reliable, good players on bad teams. How does it for you guys? What is the impact there, right? Like a guy is, number 1 running back on the Jets. we got to balance that out some way, right? Like for you guys, is that a factor, or you're just looking at, I don't care what team he plays for, he's getting the workload of carries and we're good?
Yeah, it depends. I want a path to upside. And whether that be via a lot of volume, like I think Tyrell Williams could get there via volume, or via a good offense. That's what I want. I want a path. I don't care what the path is. Abe took Tim Tebow. Come on, Abe. What are we doing here? I know tight end is gross, Abe, but what are we doing here? Come on. Also, DJ is asking, no MLB DFS day. No, we will have MLB DFS after this, DJ. So if you're here for MLB DFS, stick around. We'll wrap up the best ball stream, talk to Rob, Brandon, and JJ about their teams, and we'll talk about that next. So DJ, stick around. We'll get to MLB DFS in just 1 second. Okay, Abe, I like that one more. He went Harrison Bryant, who's actually a functioning NFL player, so I get that one. That one I like. And Tim Tebow, come on. I expect better, Abe. Come on. We got high expectations out of you here. Final picks coming up here. I did see Albert Wilson go. I like that pick by Alicia, given the buzz he has gotten. JJ, you went Nico Collins out of Houston. I think it just seems like we're taking advantage of ambiguous situations. That seems like the thought process of Nico, correct?
Yeah, I'm just kind of loading up on rookie wide receivers right now. That was my third rookie wideout. I'm actually taking another rookie wideout right here with the last pick, if I can do it. Yeah. So I took Josh Palmer with my last pick. Just going throwing darts. We know that, rookie wideouts aren't necessarily the best investment from a season-long standpoint. They usually get off to kind of slow starts, but we could see that switch a little bit during the second half of the season. And both Nico Collins and Josh Palmer have paths to seeing the field. I wasn't that high on Palmer as a prospect coming out. Didn't have great production in college, but he should be able to find the field in 3 wide receiver sets, or has the opportunity to at least. And then with Nico Collins, he could be. He's playing with the first team already. Whether that says anything, because he's playing with Houston, remains to be seen. But Nico's already playing with the first team, so I think that he's a strong pick to just see volume sort of late in drafts.
Brandon, you went with Sam Darnold. Was that your second quarterback? Third quarterback. Okay, so
third, yeah.
Yeah, but I
forgot about Matt Ryan.
It's a Joe Brady offense, man.
I mean, I'm kind of high on Sam Darnold. I think.
Yeah, I get it.
Like, DJ Moore's great. He's going to be able to check down to some guy named Christian McCaffrey. That might be nice. That might pad some stats. Robbie Anderson can get he's not going to he's not someone I'm targeting, but at this point, you never know what's going to happen to a quarterback. Honestly, if I felt better with my second quarterback than Matt Ryan, just because of my concerns without Julio, I wouldn't have gone quarterback. But I think that people are probably too low on Sam Darnold. He's still really young. I think it's going to be easily his best situation. So compared to, I did not draft Chris Conley. That's my mea culpa there. But I think that it's worth mentioning that Sam Darnold is pretty interesting.
Chris Conley's a big Twitch guy too, so he might be watching this, and I'm sure that he cares a lot.
That would be the worst thing ever. If
you didn't draft your hero when he's watching, I'm sure he cares deeply.
I mean, if you saw the beginning of the show, then
that's true. Okay, so that does wrap up the draft. We're gonna get to MLB DFS here in just a little bit. Cal says that Sam Darnold will get benched for PJ Walker. So that's where we're at. Jerry says go Colts, and that relates to my final pick. So I went with Paris Campbell. Kind of shocked he was available, because I don't mind. I'm not super into Paris Campbell, because he's coming off the injury. That offense not off to a great start, given the injuries to Wentz, to Fisher, to Nelson. But hey, it's former guy with some draft pedigree going that late. For my team, I feel pretty good about things. I had to go really hard at wide receiver. I took 10 total because I just didn't get enough early. But I feel like I had to make up for it. And I feel okay with the way things broke. Should get some guys with some volume there. Do like my running backs a lot. Javonte Williams we didn't talk about. I have lowered him in my ranks as a result of the it sounds like Melvin Gordon's getting a lot of first team reps still. So I've lowered him, but I think in the 7th round, I am okay with that. So do like my team overall. Want to go to Brandon next, just because you're beneath me on the screens. Let's go to Brandon and pull up your team.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, it's not because I really want to talk to you. It's because you're there. If we're being fully honest here. You did get your Josh Allen, got your Derrick Henry, got Justin Jefferson. How do you feel about this team?
I I could feel better about it. I'm totally fine with Derrick Henry in the first, as we talked about. I like getting Josh Allen. I think he's in that tier of just elite quarterbacks who are worth taking as high as the 4th round. I like the young guys with CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson at receiver. Feel like I got some value throughout, but honestly, I instantly regretted a lot of picks. I had the Matt Ryan mistake.
I
took Jamar Chase
every pick, so you're fine.
Took Jamar Chase over T. Higgins, which is kind of egregious on my part, but I feel like it's a pretty balanced lineup, and I have a lot of pass catching running backs kind of late. Where that might, well, I guess not really, just McKissick and Cohen, but that was kind of those are the guys I was targeting, and they weren't always there by the time I was back up on the clock.
I don't think the Matt Ryan pick was that bad.
Honestly. No, it wasn't, but I wanted to explain. I wouldn't have taken him there because he was just in a big tier of other.
But like, it wasn't a bad pick. I think it's kind of like the Tua pick for me, where like I didn't want to do it and I felt kind of bad about it, but like it wasn't the end of the world. Yeah. So I do like this team. I think you drafted well. I like the aggressiveness with the wide receivers you had and kind of getting top end guys and Josh Allen and stuff like that. So I think the team worked out pretty well. So Brandon, managing editor at numberFire, follow him on Twitter at Kadula13. Appreciate it. And I will talk to you again soon. NFL Heat Check just around the corner, baby.
Yeah, twice a week.
What could be better? Can't wait. That was Brandon Kadula. Let's talk to JJ Zacharyson now. JJ, I need to find your team. Again, I'm just very stupid with these things. Okay, you got Stafford and Burrow at quarterback. Got Saquon and Mixon. I love that start. Lockett, Cooper. A lot of productive wide receivers in your core. And then TJ Hawkinson. I think that what you did well was getting into positions before the teardrops occurred. What are your final thoughts on your roster here?
Yeah, I'm satisfied with it for sure. I got the anchors at running back. I wish I had a mobile quarterback, but Joe Burrow and Matthew Stafford should be able to give me spiked weeks. They'll have random 3 or 4 touchdown weeks, and they should be fine. And then was able to get a couple satellite backs late in Gio Bernard and Nyheim Hines, and then have James Conner be sort of the more volatile piece that can kind of slide in there if need be. And then I just went nuts drafting a lot of I have 10 wide receivers in this build. And I feel good about them. So yeah, I mean, I went after a lot of rookie wide receivers late in the draft, and then was able to get Hawkinson as the anchor at tight end. So I think it was balanced all around. I feel good about it overall.
Yeah. And you get it's not like a revenge stack, but you get like the old teammate stack with Stafford and Hawkinson. So like maybe that counts for something too. Either way.
Yes, exactly.
That's JJ Zacharyson. Follow him on Twitter at Late Round QB and check out the Late Round podcast as well. JJ, I appreciate it and have a fantastic weekend.
Thank you.
All right, let's finish up here with Rob Lopez. Rob, you got Aaron Rodgers with your 5th round pick. You got McCaffrey, obviously a great way to start things. How do you feel about your draft after McCaffrey for today?
I'm risking biscuits. I'm looking at my team here, and it's just risk. But it kind of what makes it fun. You know what I mean? A part of it is I'm looking at it, and McCaffrey's even a risk. I mean, he's probably the most guaranteed guy on the squad, but we saw what happened last year, right? AJ Brown's going to be split in time. Kyle Pitts in the 2nd round by me is kind of a reach, I would say, in my estimation. But in that situation, I was kind of stuck between 2 tight ends, really, and see who we can get to give me some tight end production there. So a lot of risks here, I think, for me personally, if I had to reflect on it, but I don't mind it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, especially, what we have in Tampa Bay down there. I'm gonna have to be rooting for the Bucks this year a lot, I guess. But overall, I like it. I'm not mad at it at all. I'm hoping for some upside, even at the tight end there with Troutman. I know that's somebody that could potentially have some nice upside. And same thing there with Pittman there with the wide receivers. I'm kind of hoping that one of those dudes breaks out. Hopefully Beasley plays this year. He was among the NFL's leaders in targets and stuff. So I'm hoping for some little upside there in those wide receivers.
I'm glad you don't mind your team because, again, I do. I'm still mad at you for the Mecole Hardman pick. We'll exchange words about this later, but we'll leave that for a separate time. Make sure you follow Rob on Twitter at R0BATO. Rob, appreciate it. Have a fantastic weekend.
Thank you, Jim.
All right, let's move now into our MLB DFS Q&A for today. And look at that. It's already set up. We are ready to go with the MLB DFS Q&A. So no matter where you are watching for today, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Twitter, does not matter. Get those questions in. We'll take them live here on the air to get you set for tonight's slate of MLB DFS. And it is a full 14-game slate for today. We're starting things off with DJ over on Facebook. He is saying Shane McClanahan, Blake Snell, Charlie Morton, or Cole Irvin for a starter. I think there are two guys there I'm willing to consider, DJ. I would say the one I like most is Morton. I actually have Morton ranked third overall for my pitchers for tonight. Really good numbers for him. Facing the Nationals, it is a repeat matchup, which I am never a huge fan of, but it's the Nationals, and they've kind of stripped this thing down to just the studs. And Morton did well against them last week. 30% strikeout rate over his past 10 starts with increased velocity in his curveball. Really good number and just a good pitcher. So I like Morton most. I will say, though, that Blake Snell is interesting. It's another guy in a repeat matchup. He was awesome, though, in that first matchup. I had been off Blake Snell I bet him to win Cy Young, so I was not off him in preseason. I've been off him in season for a very long time. But it did show life there, a lot of strikeouts, and it seemed like he was going more towards his slider. I think he threw it like 42% of the time. Let's pull this up here and actually check that out to see what the number is. I didn't actually highlight it today. Okay, here we go. Pretty sure it was like a 42% slider usage. So a different approach for Snell in that game, which I think is encouraging. Because if a guy's going to have like a spike game, I want there to be a reason he deviate. Yeah, 49% slider usage, cut out the changeup, really cut out the curveball as well. And 13 strikeouts there. So DJ, I would say that both Snell and Morton are a consideration, but Morton very much so the guy I believe more in because his success has been more sustained. Also is a very good matchup, also a very good pitcher. So I do think that Morton is number 3. Now, I mentioned that Morton is number 3. That's because I have a couple of guys higher. Those two guys are Zack Wheeler and Robbie Ray. Zack Wheeler facing the Reds. He's at home. He is just a disgusting, really good real-life pitcher, but he also gets strikeouts. This is what we want for DFS. We want to sell for strikeouts, and Wheeler does get those over his past 12 starts. This is since the sticky stuff discussion began. Still has a 27% strikeout rate, the best skill interactive ERA on the slate, and he gets there because he has great batted ball data, 26% hard hit rate, 22% fly ball rate. You got to love all of that. So Zack Wheeler, number 1. I have Robbie Ray, number 2. The more recent numbers for Ray are not super flattering, but part of that is due to the schedule. He faced the Red Sox 3 times over his past 5 starts. That's a brutal road to go through. Face the Mariners this time, super high strikeout team, not great against lefties. So it is Wheeler 1, Ray 2. DJ says his video got interrupted. I said I would go with Morton among that group by a wide margin, but Snell also a consideration among those guys you alluded to. Let's talk to Alvin. Are you worried about the Brewers' weather and the Rays' watered down lineup? I've not seen the Rays lineup yet. Alvin also says, welcome back. What's up, Alvin? Thank you. Nice to have you back in my life as well. Let me check out what Kevin Roth said on Roto Grinders about the weather for today. Because again, I've been doing the NFL best ball stream, so I've not checked things out recently. Okay, he says, not a ton of organization to the system, so I can't give any specifics, but the overall coverage and intensity of storms in the area looks somewhat worrisome. Delay seems likely, postponement possible, and so it does seem like Kevin is worried about the weather in Milwaukee. That was from this morning, so let's refresh what Dark Sky Weather says here. Of course, I trust Kevin over Dark Sky Weather every time. Does seem like it looks a bit better than it did this morning with the rain being moved back. So what I'd say, Alvin, is follow at Kevin Roth WX on Twitter. See what he says for his 5:30 update about what the weather says there, and trust him. Right now, I'm okay with it, but I would trust him over me every time with regards to weather. Second question from Alvin was with the about the Rays lineups. Let's go over here and refresh and see what that Rays lineup looks like. They're facing Michael Pineda, so I'm into them broadly. Oh no, that's bad. There's no Austin Meadows. That's not great. Oh, gross. You're right, Alvin. It is watered down. Basically, it's because there's no Meadows. That's the one thing. And there's no Jimon Choi. What in the world are they doing? Okay, so I like Lau, and I like Franco. We like Cruz, a little bit high salaried. Wendell's been in a pretty bad power rut. Let's check out Wendell and see. I want to check out his batted ball number specifically since the All-Star break and see if we should just abandon hope on the power numbers he showed earlier on this year. Because I'm inclined to abandon hope because it's been a rough little bit here for Wendell. Let's go since the All-Star break. One barrel did come last night, but that's not super inspiring. The Ground ball rate increasing. That's pretty bad. So, Alvin, your intuition was correct. This lineup sucks. So I think that like a 3-player stack of Lau, Franco, and Cruz would work. Arosa Reina, I'm okay with. I tend not to be as into him versus righties as I am against lefties, but versus righties, still a 155 ISO, can steal some bags. So I think that does work. He's oversalaried to me. Yandy Diaz, I'm not going to get to. It's kind of just these top 4 guys, honestly, and like that's tough. So I would downgrade the Rays a pretty decent amount based on that lineup. So yeah, Alvin, I'd agree with you with your intuition on that Rays lineup. Let's talk to Savon. What teams would have the most offense? So I liked the Rays before, Savon. Do not like them as much anymore. I do like the Brewers if we get the all clear on the weather. I think they're the top stack for today. Facing Mitch Keller. Keller is a guy who has struggled for like the last 3 or 4 years, ever since he had that one big year, but a lot of hard contact. His first 2 starts back up in the big leagues have not been good. So I like Keller a lot. I also like the Red Sox facing Spencer Watkins. I know I will not be alone in that, but those are the top 2 teams. The Rays and the Padres were battling for third before, but I feel like I need to bump up the Padres here. So I'm going to bump up the Padres to 3, bump the Rays down to 4. I can still use the top 4 guys on that team. So I'll still keep them in play, but I am going to downgrade them. So Savon, I have Brewers 1, assuming the weather's okay in Pittsburgh. And then I'll go with the Red Sox 2. We'll go Padres 3 against Bumgarner. He's been good since he came back, but underlying numbers not as flattering. A lot of fly balls, not many strikeouts, a lot of balls in play. So I'll stack the Padres 3, and then I will keep the Rays 4, but I don't feel as good about it. Let's talk to Jerry, running a Boston and Dodgers and Cubs stack. What players did you play? Okay, so we're going with probably a 4-2-2 type situation here. Dodgers. Where are the Dodgers? Oh, Dodgers facing Tyler McGill. I actually kind of like McGill personally, Jerry, so I'd actually be a bit lower on them, especially with no Mookie. I think for me personally, I think McGill's pretty good. So I'd probably be lower on the Dodgers personally. Decent weather for hitting. I think the wind is blowing out 89 degrees. So I do think that you could justify it, but I'm a pretty big believer in McGill. So I am not super into the Dodgers. I do like the Red Sox, though, facing Watkins. Let's pull up the Red Sox lineup over here, assuming it is out. It is not, because of course, why would it be? Yep, no Red Sox lineup yet, but the main guys here will be the guys we like. Kike Hernandez, JD Martinez, Xander Bogaerts. Actually, it sounds like Kyle Schwarber might be back. I've been in the stream for the past hour. But yeah, Schwarber's back. Okay, so Schwarber, we're going to like that for sure. So I would say Martinez first. Let's see some salaries here and some other guys. Might go Schwarber second, honestly, just because it's Schwarber. Let's have some fun. Devers 3, Kike Hernandez 4, Xander Bogaerts 5. Hunter Renfroe probably gonna be 6. I'm not sure if Verdugo will be back. He's in the bereavement list, I believe, or paternity list. So he can move to a different list. Either way, potentially would not be playing for today as well. So Martinez, Schwarber, Devers, Kike, Bogaerts, Renfroe, the ranking for the Red Sox. As far as the Cubs go, I would use the guys who are okay. So Schwindel's fine, Wisdom's fine, Bodie's fine. Outside of that, it's rough. So I would say these 3 guys are the ones to focus on for the Cubs. I'm not super enthused because I do like overall lineup strength to be a major factor, and their overall lineup strength is pretty bad. But I think that those 3 guys specifically, the 2, 3, 4 batters, can work. Let's talk to Jerry. He likes Pineda. Okay, so Jerry likes Pineda, and honestly, like with the Rays lineup, I understand it. Not enough strikeouts for me, so I'm not going to use Pineda. I'm still inclined to stack against him, but it does help that the lineup is bad. Austin, our friend Austin Swaim over on Twitch saying, did the Rays forget they're facing a righty today? It appears so. Is Meadows like hurt? Am I being unnecessarily harsh here, or did he just get a day off? Because if he's got a day off, I'd be very mad. It appears it's just a day off. Sick. Love to see it. Love to see it. He's in a rut, but he's going to go yards. So whatever. The Rays hate us. It's fine. Let's talk to Savon. How do you feel about Oakland, Toronto, and the Giants trying to touch the non-chalky teams? Okay, so let's start with the Giants here. Facing Gomber. I like Gomber a lot. This is his past 4 starts since he came back. 28% strikeout rate. They're very good against lefties. Very good team against lefties. But he's a good lefty. So I would say lower on the Giants, despite the fact that I would agree they will be less popular. A's are facing Dane Dunning. Tends to get a lot of ground balls. This is the past 6 starts with less movement on a sinker. Still a 27% fly ball rate allowed. That's a bit low. Does let up some balls in play for sure. Let's just pull up Dunning's results here. I've got the peripherals. Let's see what the results look like for Dunning in this time. Pretty sure he's coming off the IL. I think he had an issue. So maybe you want to play that angle. If he struggles coming out the injured list. 2.70 ERA in that time. It's a very small sample, but it's tough. So not as into the A's. Blue Jays. Okay, the Blue Jays are facing Chris Flexen, another guy who does suppress hard contact. Let's pull up again the results here, see what things look like there. Suppresses hard contact, but does let up a lot of balls in play. I don't tend to stack against Flexen just because the batted ball suppression has been so good broadly. 3.42 ERA. He has had rough starts at times, and the Blue Jays are a team that can generate rough starts for sure. So of those teams that rank the Blue Jays highest, followed by the A's, and then followed by the Giants in that order among some options. DJ also considering going with Starling Marte, Matt Olson, and Jed Lowry. Always love Jed. Not as much for DFS, but in general, do love Jed. Yeah, I think that they're fine against Dunning just because Dunning is not like a shutdown type pitcher. The reason I'm not as high on them is 100% because of the batted ball suppression, keeping the ball on the ground. That is an issue for me. Let's talk to Alvin. If given the all clear, assuming the Brewers, which team would be the better 3-player stack, the Rays or the Red Sox? So, and Michael also asked about Milwaukee. So let's go through Milwaukee really quick here and see if their lineup is out. Okay, it is. Okay, so we got Wong, Adames, Yelich, Eduardo Escobar, guaranteed dinger tonight. Luis Urias is in there, so that's good. Jace Peterson is a guy I've used pretty often recently, just because he's a low salaried exposure to that team. So let's pull up the Brewers numbers here versus righties. Yelich, I do want to look at his current form because the overall numbers are pretty bad, but he's had a bunch of injuries. I would be willing to consider him if things have been looking better recently. So let's look at the recent numbers here for Yelich. I know he had the COVID stint, so our recent numbers are going to be pretty slim. But since coming back, put 6 balls in play. 2 were hard hit yesterday. Making some hard contact, at least. I guess that's something. Not a lot of fly balls. Has had some barrels. It's not the most optimistic outlook I've ever seen. That's for sure. 51% ground ball rate. Let's see what the ISO looks like here. 0.94. That's tough. That's tough. That's the way I'd phrase that. So let's go back over here and let's put in Wheeler as our pitcher. So we're going to assume we are scrambling in terms of salary here. As a result of my assumed need for salary, put a Rios in there and we'll go second base. Second base usually stinks. So we'll do that. And okay, after we do that, Adames 225 ISO versus righties. I'd like to get there if I can. $3,300 actually is not too bad. I can make that work pretty easily. Probably going to want Jace Peterson because of the salary savings. He's $2,300. Peterson has been okay versus righties. So far this year, a 190 ISO, 41% fly ball rate. I can live with that. Also 6 stolen bases. So I actually feel pretty good with that. So we'll go with the Adames, Urias, Peterson if we're trying to save some salary. And then it's between Wong, Yelich, Narvaez, and Escobar. And I'd like to get to Esky if I can. Big fan of him. So if you can afford Eduardo Escobar, definitely go there. Definitely go there. He's a good hitter. If not, probably Narvaez, I would say. So if we go Escobar at third base here, fill the infield, that's $2,975. Probably can make that work. If I go Narvaez, it is $3,125. So you can probably make both work. You do get the 5, 6, 7 situation there with Narvaez, Urias, and Peterson. But I think that Urias and Peterson are guys I'm very willing to go to save salary, which I'll probably need to do for today. So I think that works. Alvin, it sounds like you were considering a one-off for the Brewers. I would say if you want to give yourself more flexibility with regards to getting to JD Martinez, getting to all those other guys on the Red Sox, I would consider Rios or Peterson as your one-off here on the Brewers to give you that salary flexibility. So better 3-player stack between the Rays and the Red Sox. I'd probably go Red Sox. I know they'll be pretty popular. So if you want to avoid like the popular stack, I would say check out the Rays instead. Maybe the bad lineup will scare people off. So I would prefer the Red Sox straight up, but if you're looking for, a discounted roster rate as a result of just a really bad lineup, the Rays could work there. But I honestly I think the Brewers are pretty good. So hopefully we get the all clear on the weather. I'd love to just stack them and feel good about it, but it is pretty dicey to say the least. Okay, Savant says the Padres did me filthy yesterday, especially the pitcher. Yeah, I used you too. It was not great. I'm right there with you, Savant. Feeling it. It was not good. Not good at all. If I picked them today, how would you rank them? Okay, so let's go to the Padres here. I'm guessing the lineup is not out yet. But let's pull up a recent lineup versus a lefty and see what we can expect there. It depends on if Tatis is activated today. Sounds like it'll be this weekend, but I don't know if that means it'll be today or not. Hopefully it is, because that would increase the value in everyone. Let's see if there's been an update on Tatis so far today, and it does not look like there has been. Hopefully it gets activated, because that would help a lot. But we'll see on that. If we assume Tatis is not activated, and we are trying to scramble to save some salary here, probably going to be pretty high on Tommy Pham in the outfield. So we'll put Pham in there. Will Myers has really bad numbers versus lefties, but like at some point I feel like he kind of has to hit. So we'll put Myers in there too. So when they face Garrett, they had Myers and they had Pham there. Cronenworth, Frazier. Frazier actually has like weirdly good numbers against lefties. I don't think that'll stick because he's not a very powerful hitter overall. So I'm kind of expecting that to come down. So we're going to pull up his numbers against lefties. They're going to look good. I don't think that's going to stick around personally, but maybe I'm just too dismissive of him. 167 ISO is pretty good. For Cronenworth, 203 ISO. That's really good. Okay. Maybe we just go Cronenworth. Is he shortstop eligible yet? No? Okay. 37's a lot when I'm trying to get to Wheeler. So that's kind of tough. So we'll just go with Machado here. $4,000. That's fine. I can live with that. And then I guess it depends on who plays. Let's see what Grisham's done. I don't really want to pay 32 for him against lefty, but 215 ISO is good. So I guess we could go Grisham at 32. But I would say Pham and Myers, to save the salary, are guys you want to turn to Savant to allow yourself the flexibility to get to Wheeler. Savant also asked for some thoughts on Detroit. I don't mind it. I didn't get to them in stacking because it's not a great overall team. There's not a lot to play for there. So the motivation factor is pretty low. But Zach Plesac hasn't looked very good since he came off the IL. So I am broadly okay using batters against him. And I think given the Brewers weather, given that the Rays lineup is pure stinky trash, I think you could potentially get to the Tigers as being a team to stack. Just saw Plesac last week. Pretty sure I bet the over on their team total for that one. 4 runs there, gave up 6 runs to Toronto. That's a tough team. The Rays are tough too. But hey, I mean, he's been rough. So yeah, maybe we check out the Tigers lineup here to see if we can get some salary savers there. Okay. So Grossman leadoff. We have Scope, Cabrera, Heimer, Renato Nunez, Castro, Haas moved down to 7th. Okay, so let's go to the Tigers. And I also want to check out salaries on Detroit to see if we can get some salary savers here. Where are they? They're there. Okay. Okay. So Grossman's 32. Not bad. Can deal with that. Let's see what everyone else is. My gosh, they got a lot of guys out. It's just the outfielders. Okay, cool. So we'll probably go Robbie. Cabrera had a double dong, but I'm pretty sure that was against the lefty a little bit ago. Miggy, 155 ISO is actually higher than I thought it would be. So let's go over here and see if he's had some sort of alteration to his batted ball data recently. We'll look at him since the All-Star break specifically to see if there's been a shift. Did have a home run yesterday too, so I guess that's kind of intriguing. All right. In this time, actually the launch angle's up. Barrel rate's 12.9%. Hard hit rate 54%. Interesting. That's not bad. 237 ISO. Huh. Okay. Miguel Cabrera might be good again. Weird. Okay, so let's just do that. Let's do this. Let's rock with it. Okay, didn't want to put him in the outfield or utility, but whatever. Okay, let's put Miguel Cabrera at catcher / first base. Let's put Haas in the outfield. I'd probably go Scope. I know he's got much better numbers versus lefties and righties, but whatever. And then among the other guys, probably Candelario, I would guess. Haas against righties, 209 ISO, a lot of strikeouts, but against Plesac, that might my man. Maybe we just go Haas. I mean, I know he's batting 7th, but who cares? So I already had him in there. Why'd I have him in there? Why'd I do that? Whatever. Anyway, I think that Detroit's in play. Long answer to a very short question, but I think that they're in play. DJ will do the final one, asking about Abraham Toro. Mariners are facing, pretty sure they're in a rough matchup. They're facing Robbie Ray. So no Toro for me. So I'll pass on that one. And I think that Robbie is a really good pitcher. So nothing there for me. That is all that we have here for today on the FanDuel Live Q&A. Appreciate all of you sticking around, though, for whether it be for the best ball draft or for the MLB DFS Q&A. Thank you, as always. Make sure before you check out to subscribe to the FanDuel YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and Twitter pages. We'll be back once again on Monday for MLB DFS Q&A. And, of course, lots of NFL content coming up this year as well. Thank you to JJ Zachariason, Brandon Gadula, and Rob Lopez for joining me earlier on for the best ball draft, and everyone for doing the best ball draft earlier on. Thank you to Calvin Theobald, our video producer, for broadcasting the video side of things here today. Thank you, Cal, as always. No thank you for taking the players I wanted earlier on. So a partial thank you to Cal for today. Thank you to everyone for tuning in. Good luck to you tonight. Good luck to you this weekend. We'll talk to you once again next week. This has been the FanDuel Live Q&A.